I'll read you, well, first I'll tell you a story as told by St. Joseph Cafasso. He mentions a story of a man who would not go to confession. He had given up amending his life, thought there's no use. And the reason why, as St. Joseph Cafasso explains, is because this man had heard a sermon by a priest in which the priest was speaking of the fewness of the saved. And this man began to look around him in church and say, well, if all these good people here, if so few of them are going to be saved, then I don't even stand a chance. The priest had compared the number of the saved with the apples that are left on the tree after the tree has been picked, that so few are saved. And so this man despaired and said, there's no point in me trying if so few of them who lead such better lives than me are going to be saved. And so St. Joseph Cafasso comments on this and warns that we must not exaggerate the difficulty of saving our soul. The way he explains it is that yes, saving your soul is difficult only if you don't love God, only if you seek the world. But if you do sincerely try to please God, that what was difficult now becomes easy. But he gives a grave warning, which I will read to you. First he says, speaking of the difficulty of being saved, the difficulty of being saved arises from the want of goodwill. We see from this same parable in which our Lord alluded to the small number of those chosen. Whose fault was it that the number of those invited was so small? Was it the fault of the householder who sent out the invitation? No, for he had prepared everything, even the seats. Was it the difficulty of getting into the banquet? No, for the doors were open. There was only a small way to go, and the householder had sent his messengers to tell them that all was prepared, and to invite them to come. If they did not go, it was therefore because they were unwilling. It is thus that we should speak to the people. Let us not be inventing difficulties. It is always the slothful who find pretexts. Whoever is really in earnest can do everything required for salvation, and can even experience more pleasure than labor in doing it. The greatest obstacle to salvation, and the one against which we should constantly fight, lies in this: that some people want to serve God and the world at the same time, to be a little of one and a little of the other. And then the work of salvation is not only difficult, but impossible. Living in that way satisfies no one. The person in question feels the weight and yoke of the world and the weight of the yoke of the Lord, and loses the wages and reward from both sides.